What's up, party people?
Well, hello, hello, hello.
Why are you changing it up? Why are you changing it up?
What am I supposed to say?
Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's a conspiracy.
Oh, maybe. Maybe it is. Could be.
Well, what is it? You have it today. What is it?
It is, I guess you could consider this a conspiracy because it's an accidental death. That doesn't really seem like an accidental death.
So it was an accidental death, or was it?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
We'll have to decide. So I am actually trying to find let's see, maybe I should do it this way.
Are you trying to find your shalongadong?
My shalongadong? No.
So
So
for
I have
so for
pictures.
oh, those
Okay.
kind of pictures, conspiracy pictures,
Well, not of
dog.
dildos. So sorry
Good,
if you
because
were hoping for that, guys, but not today.
I was hoping for dogs, but that's just me.
All right, so let's see here. All right, so can you see that?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So this is. Oh, I gotta quit moving the mouse around, apparently.
uh, Guys, if you've come to us looking for a professional podcast, we're not it.
All right,
We're
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 we're still
literally
learning. We're
two.
amateurs.
We're literally two. I don't know. I consider you a bestie. We're just two besties that just talk about weird stuff, and we move the mouse too much, and the dog barks in the background, and that's why we invite you into our homes.
Right. That's pretty much how it goes. So today we are inviting Amanda Anthony also into our homes because that's who we
Okay.
are going to be talking about here. I don't know what just happened to my script. There it is. Okay. So, when the police arrived to the most gruesome and bloody scene that they had ever seen, detectives became convinced that Amanda's death was a homicide. However, during the investigation and lack of physical evidence, that would eventually change their minds. There was nothing to support that anyone else had been in the house, so Amanda's death was changed from murder to accident. Her family remains convinced that someone killed Amanda, but there are no leads other than signs of a struggle in the dining room, her broken phone. The neighbors reported seeing a hooded man running through the backyard from Amanda's house, the large amount of blood found in the basement, the clear attempts to clean up that blood, the random soda cans surrounding her body, and the most eerie of all, Amanda's bloody footprints standing at the base of her basement stairs. But nobody knows why she didn't even attempt to climb the stairs to safety. It's been a decade since Amanda Anthony's death, and her family is still desperate for answers. However, this case is considered closed and is marked as an accident.
How? Okay. A decade. A decade, and it's an accident? What makes them think it's an accident?
Well, so we're gonna get into that, and I have lots of pictures to go along with it. So the first three pictures that you are looking at is of Amanda. Her name is Amanda Christie Lane Hogg Anthony, and she was just 2 months old when she was adopted by her foster parents, Leslie Hogg and Linda Hogg. She was raised in Central Alberta and had two brothers, Daryl and Alan. She wasn't blood related to any of them, but they treated her as their own, and she had a very happy childhood. Amanda was described as a high-spirited and friendly woman. She made friends everywhere she went. Making new friends was very easy for her. She also loved animals and had two rescue cats and a dog and took great care of them. Her two cats
Oh,
were named Gizmo and Meatloaf, and her dog is named Ruby.
so she's a person like you and I,
Mm-hmm.
because you have you have the cats and the dogs,
Right.
and I have the dogs. Well, for those of you that are going to be listening to us on Spotify, um, the picture that Lav is showing us is of this really cute little blonde girl. She's probably about a year, 2 years old. She has the biggest blue eyes. And then the picture next to
Mm-hmm.
her is probably in her 20s. And
Yeah, I would
she just
say.
has she just has this radiant smile. I mean, she looks like the kind of person that would be in customer service that would actually enjoy it, because she just has that kind of she has that kind of face.
And then, so at the age of 20, Amanda meets Lee, and Lee is the one that she eventually ends up marrying and takes his last name of Antony. That's why she has a million names. And the two of them met through mutual friends. They began dating and bought a house right away and really got married within the first year or so of their life. They lived a modest life, and it was said that Lee really had a hard time keeping a job. Amanda was the breadwinner in the relationship, and this seemed to cause a bunch of resentment between the two. Amanda and Lee supposedly fought a lot about money since he couldn't hold down a job. But otherwise, it seemed like they really had a decent relationship. By the time 2015 rolled around, the couple had been married for 5 years. So 2015 is when Amanda tragically died. On this weekend in
Hmm,
question, Amanda
okay.
and Lee had been planning to visit Lee's mother. Lee's father had died several months prior to this, and they were planning to go visit his mom so that they could help her finalize things from his death, help her clean up his things and do whatever they needed to do with his belongings and all that kind of stuff. However, last minute, Amanda had a migraine. Apparently, Amanda had suffered from pretty severe migraines, and she just didn't want to make the drive. She didn't think that she was capable of making the long drive, so the two decided that Lee would just go help his mom out alone, and Amanda would stay home and get rest.
Well, and
So,
anybody who's ever had even just a bad headache, take that and multiply it by 10, and that's what a migraine is. I don't have them often, but I have had them.
mm-hmm,
And it's blinding. You don't even want to walk from your bed to the bathroom. Your head
right.
hurts so bad. So yeah, a long distance car ride? No. No, thank you.
So Lee left, and the two texted back and forth like normal. I believe he left on Friday evening. He calls Amanda on Saturday evening, and they talk. They talked for a little while, and she was saying like her migraines were getting better. Everything seemed normal during the conversation, according to Lee. However, during the conversation, Lee heard their dog Ruby start barking. Amanda yelled at Ruby to shut up. Then all of a sudden, he hears Ruby yelp like she had gotten hurt. And then he hears a crunching sound, like a bang, like she had dropped the phone, and the line went dead. He tried her to call her back. So we know from the phone records that he had tried to call her back twice and left a voicemail. She didn't answer. Then he texted her a couple of times saying, like, your phone must have died. I don't know what happened. I guess, call me back when you turn your phone back on, whatever, the usual things that you would say. Since it was Saturday evening, he doesn't hear from her. He went to bed. He texted her a couple times throughout Sunday, but he really, I guess, didn't notice just because he was so busy on Sunday that she'd never really responded to him until Sunday evening, where he had attempted to call and text her again, got no response. So he decided that he was going to, instead of staying through Monday like he had originally planned, he was going to return home Monday morning. And this is now October 26, 2015, and this is that Monday morning. So when he arrives back to the house, he sees that the cats and Ruby were all out of food. they didn't have any water, and that there was urine and poop all over the house.
Oh, wow.
So, as you can imagine, he's pissed off. I would have been. So he kicks the dog outside, storms around the house looking for Amanda, probably bitching and complaining about the pee everywhere. They live in like a little townhouse sort of house, and so he wanders around the house looking for her. He goes upstairs and he's hollering at her. He's looking around. He doesn't find anything. So this is kind of how their the setup of their dining room is. So when he finally gets like into the dining room area, the back door is somewhere over here, and it's not really mentioned. It's not shown in the picture, but it's the opposite side of the stairs, from my understanding. So
Okay.
he finds that the chair is overturned on the back side of the table, and that her phone is laying turned off and cracked on the opposite side of the table from where the chair is turned over. And then the
Hmm.
back doors to the one side of that, and the basement stairs are to the other side of the table across from the door. And then the other two pictures is kind of how the basement stairs are set up. As you can see, there's no door. It's just an open stairway. And then there's a right turn. It comes to a little landing that's got a bunch of laundry and stuff setting there. And then it turns to continue down the rest of the way of the basement. The other pictures is the stairs going into the basement, and then this little like shelf or this little landing kind of nook at the turn of the stairs that they just have a bunch of stuff setting on.
Yeah.
So he doesn't find Amanda anywhere. And he's like, the only place that he hasn't looked is in the basement. But he's even hesitant to go down there because Amanda didn't like the basement. She was afraid of the basement. She didn't even want to go down there to take things down there. And he had been calling for her and she didn't respond. So he's like, well, there's nowhere else for her to be. So he goes down there. And as Lee takes the turn into the basement, um, he just sees the blood-soaked floors and the splatters on the wall. And then bloody drag marks that lead to the smaller basement room. And that's where he finds Amanda laying in a huge pool of blood. So Lee makes this frantic 911 phone call at this point, and I'm going to play it for you once I can remember where I saved it at. Oh, here it is.
Calgary?
Ambulance, police, or fire.
Oh my god, all.
Okay, tell me exactly what happened.
I don't know, and I just came home, and I found my wife downstairs, and there's blood everywhere.
Are you with her now?
No, no.
Is she awake? Is she breathing?
Oh my god.
Is she breathing?
Oh, 1 second. There's so much blood. And no, she's gone.
I'm sending help. I'm sending someone to assist you.
Oh my god.
So what are your thoughts
Wow.
on the 911 call?
Um, my gut, we've had so many cases, not only just us, but, in the media and other podcasts where you have perfect actors that call and they're crying and they're frantic and they're actually the one that is responsible for their spouse's death.
Mm-hmm.
But his I want to believe, I really do. I want to believe that he is truly scared, he's truly upset, but I have to think about if my loved one was at the bottom of stairs, and I called 911 because they were crumpled, there was blood everywhere, I would be cradling the phone, trying everything to be sure they really are not there anymore.
Right. Right.
And with him saying like, I don't know, I don't know.
Yeah, it
I mean,
doesn't
we all
it
respond differently to, trauma, to crisis, but something doesn't ring true.
so I and it's not been brought up anywhere that I've seen. No other podcasts have mentioned it, but if he was really to have gone down there, and you will see from the pictures. Now, granted, the blood in the 2 days since, day and a half or however long was probably dry, but he would have gotten some sort of transfer of blood somehow. The blood down there would have been scuffed from his shoe prints or something, and there's nothing. So I'm hesitant to even say that he truly even went down there and touched her.
And okay, so that's another thing. You're at the top of the stairs and you see her, just me. And again, we all respond differently. My first instinct is not going to be 911. My first instinct is running down those damn stairs. And then I'll call 911. But the first thing I'm going to want to do is get to my loved one.
Right. Right. I feel the same. Patrol Supervisor Sergeant Trent Peterson was the first officer on the scene. When he found Lee, who was waiting for him on the front porch, Lee was shaking and visibly upset. The only thing that Lee could get out was, "She's in the basement." Now, about the same time is when Detective David Sweet shows up, and he's the lead investigator for the Calgary Police Department. He says that there were no signs of forced entry. There was no signs of robbery. There was nothing missing from the house. In the dining room, a chair had been tipped over onto its side. Amanda's phone was found on the floor. It had been broken and the screen had been cracked. The phone and the chair were found on the opposite side of the room from the basement was located. The evidence indicated to the detective that there had been some sort of violent altercation. There was no signs of forced entry. So the killer either gained access to the house with a key or entered through the unlocked back door. Unfortunately, Lee cannot remember when he came home if the back door was unlocked or if it was locked when he came home, because he just immediately grabbed the knob and opened the door and let the dog out, since, he came in and found the house a wreck. Because the dog had peed everywhere, that I don't think that I would have noticed either. My first instinct was, let's get the dog out of here before she pees again, is what I would be thinking too.
Well, okay, but ask yourself this. I'll use my house as an example. So if I come home and there's urine and feces everywhere, my first instinct is something's wrong, because Tina's not going to leave that. She's not going to just walk out and be gone and there's pee and poo.
Well,
I don't think I would be.
Maybe they
Maybe
weren't as
this was
good
an
at letting
ongoing.
the animal out.
That's what.
Maybe
Yeah, that's. I was just thinking, is maybe this is kind of a common problem in their house, and that's why he is so upset.
upset. Yeah. So as the police continue to investigate, they find fragments of a broken piggy bank, which were found embedded in Amanda's skull. So the piggy bank, if you look in this picture, is actually on that little lip, on that little shelf going down the staircase. And this is a more up close picture of it, and
Okay,
then the fragment of it that they found in her skull.
so
Um,
somebody hit her. They hit her with that, and this is an
so
accident. Come on,
the crime
guys.
team reports that the piggy bank had absolutely no fingerprints found on it. There was absolutely no blood or tissue on it. And you can see where the piggy bank is on this so-called mantle, that the now I lost my place. It's still sitting on the mantle, and then it has the pieces of it broken, shattered, going down the stairs. To the detective, it appeared that the killer had left behind the murder weapon, the ceramic piggy bank found on the ledge, and that he just placed it back there. The front of it was sheared off. Another thing that I found interesting noted in the police report that there was a layer of dust on the shelf, and the ring of where the piggy bank had been sitting was not altered at all, signifying that it wasn't picked up and perhaps placed back down, unless the person took extra care to place it down exactly as the dust had collected around it originally.
What the hell?
So I want to point out as we progress into the next pictures that there's completely lack of animal anything. There's no fur, there's no little paw prints in the blood, there's no footprints from Lee. And I find it curious that the dog didn't go down to the basement at some point and check on mom.
Yeah,
Like
that's
there
weird because I can't even go pee by myself. You probably can't either.
I think that Ruby did not go downstairs because, as we can see in the pictures, there's no paw prints or anything in there. There was also no blood found on Ruby. There was no blood found anywhere in the house other than the basement. Upon entering the basement, the police found what appeared to be like drag marks. Right here, drag marks, where they suspect that her body originally laid and then was dragged to this position.
But no footprints.
But there's no footprints.
Drag marks, but no footprints.
Mm-hmm. The police see what certainly appears to them as those signs of a violent attack. It appeared that she had been struck with that piggy bank in the right portion of her face and skull, about where the area where her eye bone or her forehead meets her hairline. Upon further infection and further inspection, they found pieces of the piggy bank embedded in her forehead. She was also found partially clothed. Her pants and her underwear were pulled down past her buttocks. Based on the way she was laying on the floor, he believed that she had been sexually assaulted. However, based on the autopsy, they found no signs of sexual assault. When the paramedics arrived on scene, they found Amanda in full rigor mortis, which means that she had been dead for at least 5 or 6 hours.
I was going to say, yeah, this wasn't instant.
There was also no indication that it was a suicide.
What?
Amanda's clothes were covered in blood. There were blood on the walls, puddles of blood on the floor. She also had bruises all over her body that looked like she had been beaten. The forensic investigators were also certain that this was a homicide. The police relied on the forensics team to assist them to identify if anybody else was at the scene. So they took fingerprints, footprints, DNA from everything. The police were stunned by 2 footprints at the bottom of the stairs, which are these right here. And these are Amanda's feet. So she stood there just dripping blood, just staring up at the kitchen.
Well, shit, she was probably in shock.
And then right here are her slippers. So she was originally down there with her slippers on. And I almost wonder if she took the slippers off because she was slipping in them in the blood, maybe. I don't know.
And they're 100% sure it's her blood only?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I mean,
the only DNA that they found was hers. They do, however, think that these like swiping marks that are everywhere, they think that was somebody else swiping like removing footprints, their own footprints, and swiping the blood to remove their footprints.
That's logical because, yeah, it looks like it, but why wouldn't you just clean up the rest of the blood?
Because there was a lot of it.
Yeah, it's just very true.
Lee obviously became their first suspect, but based on cell phone records, they could see that he was in Saskatchewan with his mom for the duration. There's no way he could have been back. His phone was pinging only in that area the whole time and everything. So they quickly removed him from the suspect list. Amanda appeared to have been researching herbal remedies for migraines on the computer Friday night, and that she had gone to the local herbalist and pharmacy and purchased these things needed for the treatment on Saturday. So that's what she did on Friday and Saturday when Lee was gone. According to the detective, Amanda was not involved in any drug or gang activity. She didn't have any enemies, but during Lee's interview, he identified someone he thought could be a suspect, his sister. And they wanted her name to be anonymous, so we don't really know what his sister's name is. He said that she hated Amanda by the time that at the time that Amanda died, the sister was really bad into drugs, and that they had called him and Amanda, Lee and Amanda had called Child Protective Services on his sister, and they removed her daughter. So his sister was threatening Amanda, and she was calling Amanda up to 20 times a day, threatening her because she had her daughter taken away.
Okay, that's actually very plausible. That's very plausible because that can infuriate someone to commit murder. And if she's into drugs, then yeah, I mean, but
Right. So
would she be stable? Would she be stable enough
I don't know.
to do
It
this? I
didn't
mean,
really go anywhere. They didn't actually do any investigation of anybody else. Amanda's brother Daryl wondered if Lee's sister had paid somebody or got her boyfriend or somebody else into drugs to actually go to Amanda's house for her, since his sister knew that Lee was going out of town. They interviewed the sister, but they had no evidence they found no evidence that she was involved in Amanda's death. They had received a few tips from the neighbors about that night, and they the reports were saying that Ruby the dog was a barker, but on Saturday night that Ruby was barking so frantically and aggressively that several of the neighbors had actually looked out their windows and looked out their doors to see what was going on. And this is when the neighbors reported seeing a person wearing a dark hoodie running through the backyards, like leaving the area of Amanda and Lee's house. They also reported that Ruby barked for several hours after this. The autopsy showed...
Okay. Hear me out on this. Mm-hmm. So they see someone running through the backyard in a dark hoodie.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, so is there any type of description? Is it average height? I mean, you're not going to be able to tell gender from a hoodie. I mean, I'm
no,
very
and they
much
didn't even report it until the police went and asked them questions. So they really weren't even that concerned. Apparently, though, this was a really pretty bad neighborhood, and they were used to like druggies and homeless people going through the backyards and things like that. So it could have been nothing.
That's sad. That's very sad that this could happen. And nobody even like blinks an eye because it's a bad neighborhood. Maybe they wouldn't be bad neighborhoods if people started blinking frickin' eyes, started paying a little bit more attention. And they had a child.
No, they didn't have any kids.
Okay. Well, even if they didn't, I mean, still.
The autopsy showed that
Wow.
Amanda had weed in her system and also something that was like Benadryl in her system. Other than the broken orbital bone, there was significant bruising all over her body, mainly on her elbows, knees, and hips. But there was no serious internal injuries, no fractures to any other bones than her eye socket, no internal trauma to her brain or any other organs. And the police were really confused by this because the way her body was bruised, it looked like she should have had some sort of brain trauma or cracked skull or broken ribs or something, but there was nothing significant. So they were even actually pretty surprised that she was bleeding so much because she didn't even have a brain injury.
Well,
The
it's
medical
she didn't have a, she had
she
pieces.
just stuck in the skin, and it was her orbital bone was cracked, but that was it. It was just a minor crack. She didn't even it didn't even
Wow.
touch her brain.
Wow.
The
Well,
medical
head wounds are
exam,
going to bleed. Head
right,
wounds
and that
bleed, but
that's what they said, that she suffered from the head trauma that caused her to bleed to death very slowly. The
wow.
crime scene left nothing but puzzling whirlwind for investigators. They could not determine whether it was an accident or murder. The results of the DNA came back, and the forensics team also determined that her death was an accident because of the DNA. There was no signs of anyone or anything, animal or human, in the basement other than Amanda. All the DNA, footprints, hair, fingerprints, everything belonged to her. There was no sign that anything was stolen or tampered with from the house. When Lee arrived home, he remembered that the front door was locked, but he doesn't recall that the back door was locked. The police found no fingerprints or hair anywhere in the house that didn't belong to Amanda or Lee. And based on the placement of the murder weapon, the piggy bank on the ledge, with no signs that had ever been touched or actually moved, they believe that Amanda could have fallen unintentionally, hit her head on the piggy bank, which caused her to stagger down the rest of the stairs to her death. But none of this explains why she stood down there, bleeding barefoot, with her pants pulled down around her ankles, and just stood at the bottom of the stairs looking up for hours.
And how would that explain the piggy bank still sitting in the same area with that confuses me. That
That's what I said.
throws
If
me
she
off
hit it
so bad.
so hard that it how was it not tipped over or moved? How was it in the same exact spot? If she hit it that hard, it should have at least slid over or something. Right?
Or been on the floor
Right.
or shattered.
It's also confusing to me why she just didn't go up the stairs. There was no blood on the stairs. She didn't even attempt to take one step up the stairs. She just stood down there. She didn't have any trauma to her brain. So initially, she shouldn't have been that disoriented. Maybe if she had been bleeding for a couple hours already and lost a lot of blood, she would have been disoriented enough for it to be believable that she didn't. But in the beginning, it doesn't make sense
No.
why she didn't just go up the stairs.
Now, I thought when we first started talking about this, I thought that the pieces were into her brain. Well, that would explain why she just stood there because
No, it was just
she's
in her
not
skin. Yeah.
functioning. It was just in her skin. Oh, wow. And the
So
bad
the
thing is, like, my spidey sense usually leads me in a direction, but I can see why the detectives wouldn't even know. There's so much.
so the so the detectives all actually don't believe that it was just an accident, but they don't have the evidence to continue to pursue it as anything. So they had to they had to stop looking into it. What the family thinks happened is that they always let Ruby the dog in and out through the back door, and that it was probably really likely that Amanda had just left the back door unlocked, and she was sitting at the dining room table talking to Lee, and somebody came in through the back door. That this person coming through the back door startled her, startled the dog, and Amanda dropped her phone, or, maybe threw her phone at them or something, and was trying to get away from them. And that's how the chair got knocked over. That's how her phone got dropped and broken. And that this person either pushed her down the stairs, or she, in her attempts to get away from them, tripped and stumbled down the stairs. And that is why she just stood down there. She thought that person was still upstairs.
That doesn't make a damn bit of sense to me.
December 13th.
Why would someone just walk in the back door? And I mean, they would have to be ready. They would have to have a murder kit. They would have to have gloves, rags. I mean, this couldn't be like a sneak attack, or they sprung it on them. Like, this would have to be planned.
So, December 13th, 2016, over a year of investigating, the police give up, and they conclude that Amanda's most likely cause of death was the result of an accidental fall. However, many of the police officers completely disagreed with this ruling. And even the chief medical examiner didn't agree with it, and he refused to change her manner of death from undetermined.
You know what? I got to stand with him, because you can't say it's an accident. You can't say it's murder. It's one of those very strange in-betweens.
Right. In my theory, it's similar to what the family thinks. I think that the intruder came through the back door, startled Amanda, she dropped her phone, she tried to run away. I think that in the coming in through the back door, perhaps the dog had ran out the back door, and the intruder took the time to perhaps close the door and lock Ruby outside. I think maybe that's the only reason that the dog didn't go down to protect Amanda. I think...
Yeah, that makes sense.
I also think that the intruder may have not known that Amanda had hit her head, and that Amanda was just down there. And so they didn't really go and steal anything or do what they had planned, because they were afraid that she was just down there calling the police. So they just, maybe took her purse or something, because I found nothing that said her purse and stuff was in the house. Maybe they grabbed what they could from right there and left.
Yeah.
And then Amanda just hears Ruby barking. And she thinks that the person that came in is still there, and that's why she just stood at the bottom of the stairs waiting for Ruby to stop barking, because that's what she thinks Ruby's barking at. Or maybe the intruder was there the entire time.
Maybe it really was his sister.
Maybe, and she was just there to scare her.
Yeah. And maybe she scared her enough that she did fall.
What I am so confused about, and I could not find anywhere anything other than these Coca-Cola cans in the picture, and they're marked. But I could not find any mention of them, what they think they were from. I couldn't find, if, they just threw their soda cans around the house and it was normal. Or maybe
From
Where
the
did they
look of
come
that
from?
shelf. Yeah, from the look of that shelf, I mean,
But there's no other real in if you look at the rest of the pictures, I mean there's the one Coca-Cola can right here. But like in the rest of this room, there isn't anything else down there. So they just had a 6-pack of Coca-Cola cans that they just threw down there? Or
were
were
they
they down
empty?
there and she was drinking? Yeah, they're crushed.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I had to put my glasses back on because I'm blind as shit.
And so those confused me. The only thing that my little brain could come up with was that perhaps they were down there. Maybe they were on that little shelf and Amanda knocked them down when she fell and they were down there with her. And she's bleeding a lot, so she would start to get woozy and dizzy and stuff, and so maybe she was drinking them to try to give herself something to make her to stabilize herself, give herself a little bit of energy.
I'm sure. I drink Coke, but I just drink it because I like it. It doesn't give me energy.
Right, but I can't, to me, just an empty basement with just the 5 or 6 empty soda cans and all that blood. There's nothing else down there but that. Is so weird to me.
So
Like, how did
there's no appliances. There's truly
no
no reason to go down there.
no see, like, this is one corner, there's nothing there.
Yeah,
Like, there's
you see
like,
where
if you
the
look, this
body.
is like, yeah, there's nothing down there. It's just a big open empty room. I don't know. It's weird. Some of the theories that I read on it was that the swooshing and the cleaning up look of the blood was really just Amanda trying to soothe herself as she laid on the floor. Or perhaps it was from her slipping and sliding and she fell down because she slipped and she was trying to get herself back up and things like that. Um I don't I don't know
I don't know about
how
that.
a person would be able to, but if they were down there with her and the blood was wet enough that they could swipe away their footprints, there would have been transfer on the carpeted stairs. The stairs were carpet. There would have been blood on the
Yeah.
stairs, and there wasn't.
Okay, and there also would, yeah, because if they're gonna get out of the blood to swipe it up, they're gonna have to be on the stairs.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no, I mean, there's no swipe marks on the stairs.
Unless they got to the base of the stairs, took off their shoes, and just stood on the stairs bloody with their bare feet and carried their bloody shoes up.
That's not unheard of.
Right. I mean, that's a possibility.
Oh, wow. How heartbreaking. I mean, absolutely heartbreaking. Even if he didn't have anything to do with this, how heartbreaking to not know what happened to your loved one.
Oh, I know. It's awful. I know, and to have that question and I'm sure he has all the survivor's guilt, if he had stayed because she wasn't feeling well, or if
It,
he had forced her to go.
you know what? Caffeine, the Coke cans could have been her attempt at getting caffeine to cut through that migraine.
Right.
But
But how would they
that
have
doesn't,
ended up in the basement with her?
yeah, just thrown down in the basement like
Right.
nothing. I mean, it'd be different if there was recyclables down there
That's
or
what I was
if
and that's what I was thinking, if that's where they kept their trash or something, but it doesn't look like there's anything else down there.
stop it.
And that's what confuses me about the whole thing.
Oh, jeez. There's so many what ifs, and that's what makes this the most tragic. There's so many what ifs. What if she did fall? What if somebody pushed her? What if what if she was disoriented because of the migraine? And
Right.
that's why she ended up, I mean, you never know. He will go to his grave and unless he is a part of it, but I'm gonna side kind of on the rogue, and I'm gonna say he didn't. And he'll
Right.
go to his
I don't.
grave never knowing what happened to his wife.
I kind of feel like that too. I feel like he really didn't have anything to do with it. But I
Tragic.
do feel like there's something missing. I mean, even if it was an accident, even say somebody came in and startled her and she fell. That's plausible to me. Somebody
Yeah.
really didn't kill her. They didn't kill her, but there was some reason that she just stood there at the base of the stairs that we're not understanding.
You know what this rings to me? John Benet Ramsey.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's so many pieces of that puzzle that we will never know. It will
Right.
never 1,000%. We can speculate all we want. We can say that it was her brother all we want, but there is no hard and fast evidence. And the same thing here. They
Right.
can't say. We can speculate all day long, but there is no hard and fast evidence. We will
Mm-mm.
never truly know.
Nope.
And I'm going to go out on a limb and say, the world lost a very bright light with this, because just looking at her pictures, she radiates just
Mm-hmm.
this like she is fun to be around. She's a good person.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And
Sounds like she did her best to make the world a better place in her own little way. So
and uh partly maybe it was a good thing they didn't have children.
right.
I mean, it's sad enough to lose your spouse, your partner, but explaining it to your kids, or if this was some type of nefarious action, then the kids could have been affected too.
Right. Could you
So it,
imagine if they had like a child and the child was home with her and they're the ones that found that? How traumatizing that would be. It would be awful.
yeah. Or if the kids were home, if they were infant. This has happened in several cases where the child's an infant and they got left in soiled diapers, starving, malnourished and dehydrated because the parent they were home with was killed or killed
Mm-hmm.
themselves.
Right.
Wow. Damn, you threw us a curveball. That's what, when you text me or you call me and you're like, I've got a good one, this is the kind of stuff I expect because this is what you bring constantly. And we can do like some others and talk about like the ones that have been solved and how they got solved, but it's truly these kind of cases that I think makes for that makes me want to be a true crime aficionado, makes me want to be a podcaster, because I would love to come back and say, hey, guess what, they solved it and this is what happened.
Right. Me too. And getting the
Well,
story of the people that don't have their cases solved
no,
out there.
that's my greatest fear in life, is I'm going to lose somebody that I love, friend, family, spouse, whatever, and I'm never going to know what happened to them.
Right.
They're just going to be missing. And I mean, there's so many missing people in the world that they've been gone for 20, 30, 40 years. 2 weeks. There are indigenous women
Mm.
right now in
Oh, that's the
Canada
worst.
that are missing that nobody's looking for because they're indigenous.
It's the whole system for the indigenous people is so screwy. Like I read this book, I think it's called The Trail of Tears, and it talks about it. It's like, so the on the reservations they have their own police,
Yes.
right? And they are their own entity completely.
Hmm.
They
Because
the other,
unfortunately, our government fucked them over from day one.
right. So they don't trust our government, so they don't allow help from our government. But the indigenous police can't prosecute a white man. It's very much like military law. So if it
Yeah.
happens on the base, then they can do part of the work. But if it's somebody from outside that did the damage or did the, you know, deed, then they really can't touch that person. They can't make them pay for what they did because they have no
Mm-mm.
jurisdiction over them. And that's how this is happening. And it's not indigenous people doing it. So that's why it keeps
No,
happening, because they're the ones taking these people knowing that there's a loophole and that they're never going to get punished for it.
right. If they're even ever identified.
Right. Well, and I've
Be-
heard plenty of stories of people that brag about it. And there's nothing
yeah,
anybody can do.
they're and the bad thing about it too is unfortunately some of the reservations are not the best places.
Hmm.
They can be riddled with drugs, alcohol, domestic abuse, you know, crime because I mean, for when we went here, a good example, when we went to Wyoming, there is a place in between Montana and Wyoming where we visited that is, you literally drive down a highway that is through the Indian reservation. And uh, Tracy from the suspended sentence, friends that we were going to visit, she said, don't stop. Make sure you've got a full tank of gas. Make sure that your tires are good. You better not have to pee and have stuff to eat. Do not stop. Don't slow down, nothing. Because there were so many recorded cases of cars that would drive through that highway, get lost, or pull off because of something. And the criminal, element of that reservation, there was so many that had been killed just simply because they had to pull over for a flat tire or pull over because their kid had to pee.
Hmm.
So there's the law on reservations is good, but it's also not good because it's so limited. The
Right.
crime completely overruns it. And it shouldn't even be that way. This shouldn't happen. But culturally, our government created that. And it's understandable. My niece and nephew are half Blackfoot Indian. And their dad's side of the family is riddled with alcohol, drug abuse, domestic violence, sexual abuse. But because of the life they chose to live outside of the reservations, there was no justice. So they were mistreated by a system, they were mistreated by law enforcement simply because they were Native American.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
and
there's so many horrible things. We could do a whole episode on just the reform schools.
well, I just started to say reform school. Reform school gave us one of the greatest masterminds in modern crime, and that is the late Charles Manson. He was a product of reform schools. There's a case, and I'm going to find it, and we're going to cover it. about an indigenous woman who hitchhiked. She was trying to go back home from town. She got picked up by a white man in a truck. And when she noticed he was going the wrong direction, she called her brother. And his voice is recorded saying, "Oh, we're just going to go here." And she kept saying, "Where are you taking me? This is not the way that you said we were going to go." "Oh, yeah, I know a shortcut. I know a shortcut." They found her body 2 weeks later. This man's description, his voice, all of this is out there for public for public to view and hear. He's never been caught.
Because they can't do anything about it.
And they weren't even on the reservation. It's not even they can't, they don't want to. She's less than human to them.
That's true. That's sad.
So, party people, we always say, and we're going to say this forever, if you see something, say something.
Yes,
it's rough.
The easiest thing to do is just call and
pick up the phone.
Report. Yep.
Yeah. You don't have to directly get involved unless you choose to. You can keep yourself and your family safe. You can report it and then step away from it. But don't watch these things happen and not somehow try to intervene.
Right.
Tough case. Great case. Tough, very tough case.
But yeah, it definitely makes you think, and it scary.
Well, and it makes you kind of appreciate law enforcement because, I mean, look, here we are. We're just true crime enthusiasts. We're podcasters. We're talking about this case. We're trying to figure out our little brains,
right?
What happened with like the mental health backgrounds that we have. But can you imagine being a detective and everything points to a murder, and at the same time, nothing points to a murder?
Mm-hmm.
How frustrating.
And it's crazy to me that they all believe there's something else. There's something that they're missing. Mm-hmm. There's more to it, and they don't think that it was just an accident. But they can't do anything about it unless somebody comes forward and says, "You know what? I know who came in. I know who else was there." Something.
Or even if you don't know, but you suspect. I mean, Ted Bundy. There were thousands of calls about men who were driving tan 1974 Volkswagen Beetles. And, a lot of it was, well, okay, yeah, it's not him. It couldn't be this and that. But there was one in that stack of thousands, and it was him. And he was caught. Right. And countless women were saved because of that. So even if you think like something crosses your mind, like, hey, my neighbor, my cousin, my boss, my coworker, the guy at the gas station, he was acting kind of weird. They were kind of acting weird that time. If it's nothing, it's nothing. But see something, say something.
Mm-hmm.
Protect our people, not even just our women. Protect our people. So with that, party people, hug your loved ones. Call whomever you haven't talked to in a while, friend, family. Just tell them, hey, you know what? I love you. Make it weird. Make it so regular that they expect you to call. Like, oh, hey, Lav, thanks. I expected you to be calling to tell me something, to check on me. Hey, go next door, meet your neighbors. I'm weird about that, but when we had a rash, we had a rash of somebody throwing bricks through. No, if your neighbor's wearing horns, don't go meet them. Just bring a sacrifice and walk away slowly. We had a
Sacrifice in
rash.
the form of a casserole, please.
A casserole?
Yeah. So don't have to cook dinner.
That's what Uber Eats is for. Hey, if you're a Prime member, Grubhub will bring you your food for free.
Yeah, not out here.
No, not that where you just no. You live down a 25-mile dirt road. They're gonna drop your shit off at the street and call you.
Yeah.
Be
That
like,
happens
I'm
to me
sorry.
sometimes. They're like, it's at your
Ugh,
mailbox. I'm like, that's
what's
like a
my
mile
mailbox?
away, no? Yeah.
Um, yeah, we're joking and kidding because it's rough. It's scary. When I have women on my bus alone, when I have young people on my bus alone, and I let them off, first words out of my mouth is stay safe. So you guys listening, stay safe. Know your surroundings. Just know that you're very valued and we want you here and we don't want to talk about you like one of the cases. We want to talk about you because you came on and, you were fun, but just stay
Right.
safe.
Because you emailed us. That's why we want to talk about you.
Email us, message us,
Share us.
you don't even gotta
That sounds
rate
weird.
us. Just
Yeah.
yeah, share.
Yeah. I don't
Share
know
and
if I want to.
share.
I don't like to share.
It depends on what I'm sharing.
I'm not sharing my casserole.
I don't blame you. I got a frozen lasagna I can ship to you if you want. With that, party people, catch us on the flip side.
Bye.
I couldn't find